it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, the Black Business School, and I want to say hello to everybody and good morning. I want to say also hello to everybody on Instagram. My Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins. So if you'd like to follow me on the gram, please do. Also, you should follow the Black Financial Channel on Instagram. If you're interested in financial news and information on a daily basis, we have a Black-owned platform that reaches millions of viewers, and it's called the Black Financial Channel. So if you're interested in checking it out, go to follow the Black Financial Channel on Instagram or theblackfinancialchannel.com. So what's going on, everybody? How you doing today? I see you guys in here. Wizzy says, I sent you a message, brother. I did not see it, but I will go take a look. Anyway, one of the things I wanted to address, first of all, I want to put hashtag B1 in the chat. Hashtag B1 means that we're Black first. And I want everybody to know that about this platform, that pretty much all I care about is Black people, to be honest with you. I'm not here for all humanity. I'm not here to save the world. I'm not here to take on every issue known to man. I am here for Black people. That's it. That's what I do. That's what I care about. So, you know, who knows, maybe one day they'll start calling me a Black supremacist or something. I don't know. I'm not one who's out here trying to oppress anybody, but I'm definitely a guy who puts Black people first. So that's what it is. That's what it's going to be. I'm not going to change that ever. So here's something I wanted to address. You know, I put something on my Instagram earlier, and I like to look at your comments. I do look at as many comments as I can to see what you guys are thinking. And this thought came to mind this morning. I trust my instincts, and I listen to what, you know, the universe puts into my subconscious, into my spirit when I wake up. Sometimes stuff will just be there, you know, and I'll say, you know, I need to say this, and I'll say it and share it. And I share things because I am a teacher. You know, you guys know I taught at Syracuse University all those years, and I've been teaching college students for a long time. And I like teaching because I feel like shit, you know, when Black scholars are sharing information, it counters some of the bad information out there. You know, when Black scholars exert our influence, it counters some of the negative influences. I believe that there's a lot of negative influence from things like hip hop. I think a lot of hip hop music, unfortunately, has become a blueprint for self-destruction, particularly for the Black male, and also a blueprint for disrespect for the Black female. And so the blueprint, what does the blueprint consist of? Well, if you listen to most hip hop music, if you listen to a lot of the music, not all the music, but a lot of it. So this is not anti-hip hop. If you're not a rapper in this category, then don't, this is not talking about you. But if you listen to it, you tend to hear blatant disrespect of women, particularly Black women, you know, using B's and H's and all this other stuff. You hear just this sort of almost addictive white supremacist commitment to materialism. You know, I want to brag to you about how I spent all my money with Gucci, or I went to see some jeweler, some, you know, Asian, white, Jewish jeweler who's sucking up all of our money and making me look like a dumbass. You know, I'm not providing for my kids. Ain't building no wealth, ain't doing nothing for the community, but I'm shining though. I'm shining because I went to see, you know, Ron Jokowski, the jeweler who sells to all the rappers, and then goes home and calls you the N-word with his family and laughs at your dumb ass. He's laughing at you. He thinks that you're stupid because he ain't blowing his money in the hood. He ain't blowing his money in the Black community, but you blowing all your money in his community. And so that's the other message that you see, the crazy, weird materialism. The disrespect of women is enormous and unbelievable and very, very sad. You talk about sexual irresponsibility. You know, when people talk about, you know, this week everybody was talking about entanglements, you know, with Jada and Will and August Alsina and all that other stuff. And I just tend to think of things on a different level. I see what level everybody else is on and the vibration everybody else is speaking on the issue with. And I always try to say, what's the deeper implication of this? What's the next level of understanding with this? How do we make this into more than just gossip? right? Because that's all it is. I mean, right now, the Will Jada thing was just gossip. But I was interested because, I consider Will Smith to be one of my peers. I don't know Will, but I know his brother Harry. Me and Harry have sat and talked for hours. And I loved talking to Harry. That's a smart black man. I said, man, I respect this guy's family because they're not stupid people. They're very smart people. And so I was intrigued. I followed Jada all the way back to even before she did that movie, Set It Off and all that stuff. So I like to dig into, I love the gossipy stuff. It's interesting to me because I believe life is a university. I believe life teaches you everything you need to know about life. And what is more important to understand in life than life itself? Do you follow what I'm saying? Give me a yes or no in the chat if you get what I'm saying. You're here on this earth. You're living your life. You're trying to make good decisions. You're trying to know who to date, who not to date, what to do with your career, how to get bills paid, how to survive, how to stay healthy, so why wouldn't you try to understand life by looking at life and maybe analyzing the lives of other people? Right? Do you understand this? Let me just kind of brag for a minute. I'm gonna talk a little bit of shit. I hope it's okay if Uncle Boys talk shit for just a minute. I don't like being I'm a confident man, but I'm not I don't believe I'm an arrogant man, but I'm gonna talk a little bit of shit. I was really wise for my age. When I was 22 years old, I had the wisdom of a 35, 40-year-old. I'm not kidding. So I would go through shit and I remember saying to my dad, well, in 10 years, I'll probably laugh about this. Or in 15 years, this will be a great learning experience for me. I could always contextualize things in a certain way. I was always playing chess, not checkers. I always saw well ahead of the curve. A lot of my friends would make mistakes and I would see the mistakes being made and they wouldn't see it at all, right? But I would see it because I'm always thinking, A plus B equals C to the third power times 10, right? So I was always looking ahead. So even the life I live now, I was planning for this life 25 years ago, right? And the way I figured things out, I'm gonna tell you, here's a secret. This is a little secret for you guys. The way I was able to figure things out was that I would just sit there and I would just think. I would observe and think all the time. I would sit by myself. I was definitely an isolationist, and all I would do was just think about life. I would think about people's choices. I would look at older people, younger people. I would live people's lives out in my head. And that is what in mathematics, you might call that going to the fourth and fifth dimension, right? That's what that actually is. I'm not going to get too deep on you, but that in my mind is what I call going to we live in the three-dimensional world, but if you go to the fourth and fifth dimension, that's when you can really see the whole plane. When you go to higher dimensions, you're looking at the world from the top down. And if you imagine being in a forest where you're on the ground, you don't see the forest as well as you see it when you go up high, right? So a lot of times to really understand life, you got to go to that next dimension, right? Some of y'all do that, and I applaud you if you do. And I think it's a great thing to do in terms of just really thinking about things. So I look at Will and Jada's scenario because I was really interested in kind of thinking about how we view relationships and how we view choices. And one of the things I remember thinking was, I said, why in the fuck would she sleep with a man like August Alsina? I couldn't understand that. I remember, no disrespect, of course, but I remember August was a guy who, the only thing I knew about him was I remember he punched a fan one time, and I remember he pulled out he took a picture of himself in his underwear on Instagram because he wanted to show off the size of his penis. And I was thinking, when you do what you do in private, when it comes to sex or whatever, you do what you do. Nobody's here to judge that. But, when you're building an empire like the Smiths have, you have to protect that. So that means if you do your shit, you keep it to yourself. Like for example, I think Camille Cosby was not just upset with Bill in terms of what he's accused of doing and all the women. I think she knew about all the women. I don't know if she knew everything, but I think she knew about all the women. I think Camille was just upset because you can't keep your shit in a box. Like you can't cover up your shit, and Jada didn't cover up her shit because she basically entangled herself with an unstable, unpredictable, very self-destructive young person, right? A kid who, would take, penis selfies on Instagram, and people like that are the same people that are going to go get on Instagram and blab about the fact that they were having sex with you, right? So I think that Will was probably more upset. I would be willing to bet you. I think that in terms of, if you just want to go into that tangent, I believe that they've always had an open relationship. I believe they always knew that everybody was doing whatever, right? But I think Will was probably more upset because he's like, damn, like you blew up our spot. Why can't you go sleep with a man who knows how to keep his mouth shut, stay on code, as opposed to a young kid who's going to go out and tell everybody what you did so he can get on the come up. So that was my thought on that. So why do I bring that up? Well, I was actually talking about, black men and choices and things like that. And I know we spun off into that, but so I want to actually circle back to what I was originally sort of discussing. But I think overall, in terms of just choices, I think that culture, that hip hop culture, that toxic side of it is so bad for black men in particular. Now Will and Jada, obviously that's a little bit different because you're talking about Jada as a woman, whereas Will is a man and there are strategic decisions he has to make. But I think overall, just that culture, and I look at August, for example, he's a product of some of that culture too. Just that whole, like, I'm tattooed down from head to toe. I'm only worthy because I drive a Jaguar. I have sex with as many women as I possibly can. That's where I was going with that, sexual irresponsibility. So what black folks don't talk about at all is just how many STDs there are out here. I mean, the STD rate is insane, but because we have this code of silence on stuff like that, you don't hear about it, but it's really out there, And so if you're going out and you're sleeping with somebody and they're not responsible about where they're putting their stuff and they're not responsible about protecting themselves, I don't really know how you think that's going to put you in a good situation or in a good position, right? So that was probably what my biggest concern was. Just speaking about Jada, I'm really going on a stream of consciousness here. I hope you guys can bear with me. I hope this is good information for you. But, I think that with Jada, that's probably the part that's kind of like unfortunate, right? Like, so let's say that I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna get with a young thing and do my thing. It's one thing if you're with a young person or you're with somebody and you're doing your thing. It's another thing if you're with somebody who is probably like sleeping with everybody and they're blabbing to everybody, right? And so you're just kind of bringing chaos into your life. And I think a lot of us, unfortunately, maybe because of our trauma, and Jada was smart to bring up trauma, but because of our trauma, we like that chaos. We like bringing chaos and negatory into our lives. Like we feel like that's us. Like we misidentify that as black culture, right? Like we look at, we look at the toxicity of hip hop culture and we think that that's black culture because white people told you that that's black culture. White people told you that this is the way black people behave because they find the most ignorant, ridiculous, ratchet, pathetic black people they can find, and they make them rich and famous. And you say, oh, well, he's a rich, famous Negro. I want to be like him. So you're watching the minstrel show and it inspires you to want to be a clown. So effectively, you have a whole lot of really intelligent black people in your community who are dumbing themselves down so they can fit in and be like the celebrities they saw in Love and Hip Hop. They want to be like Cardi B. Cardi B, she can make her money however she wants to, but she's literally a woman who raps about, a woman who's drugged and raped men, by the way, who raps about sucking penises for money to 7-year-old girls. And then you, simultaneously, to just show how crazy you look, you simultaneously complain about the hypersexualization of young black girls, but yet you're okay with Lizzo sucking a man's penis on TikTok. Like you don't connect the dots. You don't connect the dots in terms of the mixed messages that are being sent to the world and being sent to our children, being sent to each other. And so we can't condone this. So I think that hip hop culture, particularly toward the, not just the black women, but also black men, is just kind of this pattern, this recipe for self-destruction. Much of it is, not all of it. Some of it, you got positive stuff out here, of course, D1, Lupe Fiasco, a lot of great, wonderful artists that are doing wonderful things, but then you have a lot of artists that are just doing things that are really inexcusable, that if a white person was saying these things about black people, you would never accept it. But because a rich black person you admire is saying these things about black people, you think that that's totally fine. So, we got to kind of sort of look at the hypocrisy a little bit. I think that we have to also take our accountability in terms of how we play a role in our own oppression, how we are also white supremacists. White supremacy is not just something that white people do. White supremacy really only works, it's only effective when black people do it too. White supremacy is a sport. It's a game where it takes two to tango in that game. If you don't agree to play the white supremacist game with white people and to allow them to proclaim their white supremacy, then white supremacy does not work. So ultimately, when I look at hip hop culture and I look at its effect, particularly on the brothers, and also households and things like that, the loss of masculinity, which comes from the fact that we have allowed racist liberals to convince us that fathers are not necessary in the house. That's created a lot of femininity amongst black men, not just in terms of men that want to be with other men. That's fine. I'm not judging if you're in that category, but there's a promotion of that. Also, the men who just don't want to be men, who don't even know what it means to be a man. I talked to a black woman not too long ago who I could tell she had some anger issues toward men. She was a young woman, about 28 years old. And she told me that she got with this guy who was like a stud. He was an athlete. He saw himself as a big dumb jock. He saw himself as a ladies' man, right? And he was a big built, he was a boxer, basketball player. I don't remember what sport he was in, but I remember she was telling me that she went and told him that she was pregnant, and she said that the reason that she did not keep the baby and terminated the pregnancy is because he cussed her out. He talked really down to her. He said the worst things that a human being could say to another person. And it really made me very sad. And I said to her, I said, on his behalf, I want to apologize. On behalf of black men, I want to apologize that you went through that. Because I believe that if he had a responsible father who would just tell him, look, if you're a man and you make a baby, you take care of your kids, I don't think he would have done those things. I think that he grew up in a space where that sort of irresponsibility was acceptable, that it was okay to just go make babies and not take care of them. And I think that that's deplorable, right? So with that being said, I think that we have to think about our culture and not just, and I'm going to speak specifically about black males. One thing that I mentioned on Instagram this morning is, this sort of weird thing that we have with sports. We allow sports to kind of suck in the attention of so many of our young black males because we are amazing athletes. We go to school, we're the fastest kid in class, or you're the strongest, or you jump the highest. So you turn on the TV, and because white people are constantly promoting athletes to you, they're not promoting scholars, they're not promoting lawyers, they're not promoting doctors, they're promoting basketball players and football players. So many of our boys, millions of our boys, think they're going to be professional athletes, which is about the most ridiculous shit known to man. It's incredibly ridiculous because anybody with, that's even had a glance at the data understands that there's only a couple of jobs in these professions. There's like a couple of dozen jobs, and the jobs usually go to the guys who are, 6'6", 240 pounds. You got a son who's going to grow to be 5'9", who really thinks his only hope, his only option is the NBA. I don't know what to say to that child, and I think that we got to kind of look at that process and say, how does that happen? How do we allow this country to mass produce millions of young black boys who think they're going to be the next LeBron James when they're probably not even going to be 6 feet tall? People don't even know this. Did y'all know that that only a small percentage of the population grows to be over 6 feet tall? Let me look it up. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done it yet. And feel free to follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is @RealBoyceWatkins. Only 14.5% of the world's population grows to be over 6 feet tall. Only about, 8% of the population grows to be over 6'2". Let me give you some more data here so you can have some facts. I want you to have some facts. Let's see here. It looks like about 1.5% of the population grows to be 6'4" or taller. Now, anybody who knows anything about sports, you know that the player who's 6'4" is going to have a really hard time getting to the NBA. In the NBA, 6'4" is considered short, but only 1.5% of the population even grows to be 6'4". So, this idea that somehow the NBA is going to be the full employment solution for the black community is absolutely ridiculous. And I think it's something that we have to actively fight against. We have to campaign against this. We have to market this idea to make sure that all of us, you know, create opportunities and options for our young men that go beyond playing a damn sport. Where does it come from? Well, it comes from media, right? Media mass markets athletes over anything else. So every black boy wants to be an athlete. It comes from the school system, right? You got that white lady at school teaching your son, and she hates your son. She's scared of your son. She thinks your son should be shot by the police. So, but somehow you've chosen to hand your child over to these people who hate him. And so they teach him, like my teachers taught me, that that blackness is inferiority, that a black male has no place in the classroom, that black boys are stupid, that they should be in special ed. That's why when you go to most public schools, a lot of public schools, you'll see the special ed classes are filled with black males. I know this because that was my story. That was my experience. And then 3, we as a community are quick to support, cheer on, and finance athletic endeavors in a way that we do not cheer on, support, and finance academic endeavors. Now, is this an anti-sports statement? No, this is not anti-sports at all. I love sports. I played all the sports. I had a hell of a 3-point shot. I could jump out of the gym. I was captain of my track team, and I was big and stocky and sturdy. And so I was recruited intensely, consistently to play football. I just chose not to. So I love all the sports. My father, from what I understand, my biological father was a great baseball player. I wish he'd been around so he could have taught me how to play baseball, but he wasn't. It is what it is. So I love sports. Sports teaches you so many things about life. It teaches you so many things about success. It teaches you how to work hard. Sports teaches you how to set goals. Sports teaches you how to overcome adversity. Sports teaches you how to focus. So not only do I love sports, but I actually feel sorry for people who never got a chance to play sports, because sports teaches you so many things that can make you successful in life. In fact, when I was at the University of Kentucky, I was the #1 black student on the entire campus. I'm not making this up. It sounds like I'm bragging, but it's true. So whatever. I was the #1 black student on campus. The reason I was the #1 student on that campus was because I took everything I learned from sports and I just applied it to academics. I was a naturally competitive person. So when I couldn't play sports anymore, God blessed me by taking sports out of my life, right? God blessed me by not giving me enough talent to play collegiate sports. And he forced me to find another pathway, another outlet for my natural male competitive aggression, right? So here's the thing. I think that we need to never abandon sports, right? So if you are a coach, if you are a former athlete, if you are a sports lover like me, do not take offense to anything that I'm saying. I think that we should never abandon sports. What we need to do is put sports in its place. You see, your problem is, you know, when Willie D used to say, "Don't turn a hoe into a housewife," right? It's okay to like the hoes, but you don't try to marry the hoes, right? You don't try to. I hope y'all can get what I'm saying. Maybe I sound sexist, but I don't give a shit. I'm gonna finish what I got to say. So maybe you like a hoe, maybe you like the big butt and the smile, but that's not the woman you marry. You know, maybe you went to a strip club and you like the pretty strippers or whatever, right? They're very athletic too, by the way. I only went to a strip club once, but I was impressed with their athleticism. It takes a lot of strength to go down that pole, right? So maybe that's what you like, but that's not what you marry. That's not who you bring home to your mother. That's not who you invest your life with, right? But maybe you have a place for the hoes in your life, right? But then you have a place for the woman you want to marry, right? She's special. She's the queen, right? She's the intelligent one. She's the one you can bring home to mama. She's the one that will give you respect in the community. She's the one that you can love forever and know that you're going to get a quality partner in life, right? The hoe is not necessarily in that category for you, right? Well, I think that, the problem for black people is that we have taken sports, and instead of putting sports as the side chick, we've made sports into the main chick, right? Instead of looking at sports as something that we do for recreation, we somehow look at sports as something that we do for professionalism. We look at sports as the primary method by which we're going to obtain economic advancement, and that just does not work. You're trying to turn a hoe into a housewife. When you do that, you're turning a hoe into a housewife. You are taking something that should be child's play, and you're trying to do it as a grown-ass man. And I hope I don't hurt nobody's feelings when I say this, but I'm sorry, most of y'all have seen it. There's nothing sadder in the world to see than some guy who dedicated everything to sports, and did not take the time to learn how to read, did not take the time to learn how to start a business, did not take the time to plan for his future. And he's 28, 29, 30 years old, 2 or 3 kids, can't take care of the damn kids, sitting up in a liquor bottle. And all he talks about is how great he was in high school, because that's all he's got. All he can talk about is all the great things he accomplished as a high school athlete, right? That's pathetic. That's very, very sad. You know, these children are like, Daddy, I need milk. Daddy, I need a new pair of shoes. And Daddy's sitting around half drunk and sad and depressed because his best years are behind him. And I don't think it has to be that way. And I think that in order for that to change, you got to stop waiting for white people to stop being white. You got to stop waiting for white people to change. You need to change. Stop waiting for white people to give you permission to reclaim your humanity. Stop waiting for white people to somehow open the doors to allow you to somehow have a more diverse mindset. No, white folks are going to always do what's best for them, and you should be doing what's best for you. So it drives me crazy when we somehow think that this aspect of white supremacy, the way black males are used, they suck our resources out of the community, right? Black males are used for sports. They're used for the enrichment of these big white universities that won't even hire a black professor, won't hardly let in a black student, definitely won't promote any black person on the faculty, but yet they will go into the funkiest neighborhoods in America so they can recruit the next big superstar that's going to bring them that $20 million paycheck that they get for winning the NCAA championship and playing in a game where in many cases the boy's mama can't even go to the fucking game because she can't afford a bus ticket or get a day off from work. She can't come to the game, but the coach's wife and children are flying to the game on a private jet. So this don't make no damn sense. This is absolutely ridiculous. And here's the thing, that we know that this system is wrong. We know that this system is corrupt. We know that this system is exploitative. But the question is, who's going to do the work to change it? Who's going to do the work to say, no, this is not going to happen anymore? Who holds the cards in that situation? If you think that white people hold the cards, then I need you to hang up and get off my channel right now, because this is not the place for you. This is not a place where I sit around thinking, God, how can we get white people to be better human beings so that they'll stop doing what's best for themselves? How do we get white capitalists to stop being so gosh darn capitalist? How do we get the white man to stop being aggressive? How do we get him to emasculate himself so we'll be on the same level, right? How do I make a tall guy short so that we're the same height, right? Seriously, and maybe we can make him into a little wimp like some of our men, so then it'll be an even playing field, right? It doesn't work. They're not gonna change their behavior. They're gonna always do what's best for themselves. What I'm saying to you is, you need to take stock in your role and your participation in the process, because at the end of the day, there are black people out here who have completely claimed a very large percentage of control over their lives and their outcomes. There are millions of black people out here. Raise your hands if you're one of them. There are millions of black people out here that control their own destiny. There are millions of black people out here who say, you know what, my son ain't gonna be a statistic, right? There are millions of black people who say, no, my son is not going to grow up uneducated. My son is not going to grow up without understanding how to be successful in life. No, my son is not going to end up, on the side of the road with a liquor bottle in his hand, waiting to get shot by the cops or whatever, right? My son is not going to be, right? So there are millions of black people who are doing this. And so I need to ask you this question, right? If racism and white people, we know about racism, right? We know that white folks ain't going to stop being white, right? But if it's so oppressive, then how the hell is it that millions and millions and millions and millions of black people, and I see you guys every day, are really out here doing the damn thing? And I'm not talking about rich people who were born with a silver spoon in their mouth, or people who have, college professors for parents. I'm talking about people who grew up broke. Anybody else, raise your hand in the chat right now. I want to ask you a quick question. Did you grow up poor? How many of you can say, I remember what it was like to maybe eat a bologna sandwich with no bologna, or mayonnaise sandwiches, right? Or sugar water, because you can't afford the Kool-Aid yet till mama gets paid, right? Or remember getting the lights cut off. I remember the lights getting cut off. How many of you remember roaches in the house and seeing roaches, and roaches were not a big deal because they were everywhere. So you just flick it off the table and you keep on eating, right? How many of you grew up like that, right? And many of you found your way out of that situation, right? And I think it's very important that those stories are heard also because somebody told you a lie that says that Black people who start poor have to die poor, that Black people who face racism absolutely have no ability whatsoever to have any sort of forward mobility in their lives, right? Somebody told you a damn lie. And I'm just here to tell you a different sort of truth that will hopefully give you some insights that will help you understand that the reason that so many of our people fall off the cliff is because so many of our people are sheep. So many people are sheep being led to slaughter, and they just follow the sheep in front of them. There are so many of our people who just do what the Negroes on TV tell them to do. There's so many people who just sort of feel like I'm in the system. There's nothing I can do. I must follow the system, right? And I'm just here to tell you that no, that system is not built for you. That system's designed for you to fail. That system's designed for your children to become slaves. That system's designed to make sure your son is either in prison, unemployed, or in a casket by the age of 30 or 35 years old, right? That system's designed to keep you where you're at right now. So in order for Black people to achieve whatever success, freedom, liberation you're looking for, you must go outside the system. You must go outside the influences. And let's go back to it. If you're a parent, you got to be the parent, for example, where when your son is 6 and some guy comes up and says, you know, your son's pretty big for his age. When you gonna bring him out for football? You got to be the parent that says, maybe you could say, here's some options, right? You could say, yeah, I'll bring him, right? Or you could be the parent that says, you know, studies show that football causes brain damage, and I don't really know if I want my son's brain to get all fucked up at an early age. Now, again, if the football players and football coaches might get mad at me, but the data's out there. The data's out there to show that the brain damage happens super early. It's happening in high school and middle school. And so I hate doing it because I love football. I still do. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe I'm even a hypocrite on that. I don't know, but I like football. I just don't like brain damage, right? I like I like being able to remember, my kids' names. I don't want to be in a situation where I'm driving home from work and can't remember how to find my house. These are the stories I've heard from friends of mine, people I know who achieved the dream of playing in the NFL. I'm not kidding. There's a guy, Antoine Randall L. Look him up. Antoine Randall L. played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he was actually, I think, Super Bowl MVP one year or something like that. And Antoine and I were talking at an event hosted by Etan Thomas, a guy I know who played in the NBA, is a good brother. And I remember Antoine and I were just talking, and I said, so tell me about that CTE thing. Like, do you have friends that are affected by that? And that was when he told me, he said, I wish I had never played football. And I said, what? I said, wait a minute, you were great. You played in Indiana. You were the man. He said, man, I wish I had never played football. He said, and I got friends that will have a conversation with you and literally 3 minutes later will not remember that they had the conversation with you. It's ridiculous. It's insane, right? So and then maybe about a year later, this is true story, I swear to God, a year later, he was in USA Today with that very same quote, I wish I had never played football. Right? And everybody was shocked by that. So what I'm saying is sometimes the white man presents you with a dream and it becomes your dream, and then you achieve that dream, but you realize that the dream was a nightmare. Like you realize that you got kind of rope-a-doped into wanting something that you didn't really want, almost like wanting the girl that really was the worst woman in the world for you to ever be with. I don't know if anybody's ever gone through that, where you really want somebody and you find out once you get them that they were like the worst person in the world for you. And we go through that. We all do that. And so what I'm saying to you is to help your children have a different dream. That's what I'm saying. Help them have, multiple dreams, right? So if somebody comes up and says, when's your son coming out for football? You could say, I don't want my son to play. You could say, he can play football after he does his homework. If he doesn't do his schoolwork, then I'm going to take him off the team. You could say, in addition to football camp, I need you to spend as much time at business camp that you spent at football camp, because you probably won't be a professional football player, but you're definitely going to have to grow up and pay bills, right? We know with maybe there's a 0.1% chance that you'll make it to the NFL, but there's a 100% chance that when you get to be 25, that the bill collectors are going to be knocking at your door, and you're going to have a family to feed as you get older in life, right? So what I would say is that when you sort of connect, you got to connect the dots, right? You got to look at, look at black men, right? Look at a a 32-year-old black man, and then you got to backtrack and say, how do you build a better man? How do you build a better black man? Let's say that this black man, can't read, so he's stuck in a box. He's in the trap. He's trapped because he can't have any upward mobility in his income or his professional life. Why? Well, because he can't read that well. Well, you got to go back to when he was in elementary school and high school and say, okay, wait a minute. Let me do the math. Let me see. There's 8,760 hours in a year. So that's 87,600 hours in a decade, which means that over about a 20-year period, that's 175,200 hours. So you had 175,200 hours between the time you were born and the age of 20. And in that time, it would have taken you probably 500 hours to learn how to read. But yet, for some reason, you didn't learn how to read. You don't know anything about economics. You don't know anything about what it takes for a black man to survive in an admittedly racist society. What were you doing with all that time? What did you do? So you might go back and do an accounting and say, just like they do when they audit a business. When they audit a business, they go back and they say, well, what did you do with all that money? So I would go back and look at that 175,200 hours that young black man had between the ages of 0 and the age of 20. And you do the math, you would say, okay, I get it. Okay, he spent 30,000 hours in football related activities. So you that's a bad investment because you didn't make a penny playing football. Let's see, you spent another 77,000 hours chilling, right? You ever call a brother up and be like, what you doing, man? Oh, nothing, chilling, right? So why are you chilling? You're a black man. They're trying to kill you. You're at war. You got to be ready. Why are you chilling? Like, soldiers should not be chilling. Soldiers need to be hustling. Right? Soldiers need to be on their grind. Soldiers need to be alert, right? So why are you sitting back with weed in one hand and liquor in the other and chilling? Like, no. So you're gonna get slaughtered like that. That's not how you win a competitive game. What else did you? Let's see here. Okay. Oh, you were in school every day. God damn. So you went to school every day for how many years? Let's see what 12 years, and that's 5 days a week. You were in school about, just make the math easy. Let's say 10 hours a day. So 50 hours a week. You were at school. That's 2,500 hours a year. So that's approximately 25,000 hours over the course of a decade. So about, let's say about 70,000, 50,000, sorry, 40,000. Let's say it's about 40,000 hours. So you spent 40,000 hours. Imagine spending 40,000 hours doing anything. Like, seriously, imagine spending 40,000. If you spend 40,000 hours doing anything, you should be great at whatever you were doing all that time. Seriously, what happened in those 40,000 hours? Or let's say it's 7 hours a day. I don't care. I think whatever the number is. So 7 hours a day. Let's break the number. Okay, so let's say it's only 30,000 hours you spent at school. 30,000 hours, and you didn't even learn how to read. You didn't learn how to write. You didn't learn how to do math at an adequate level. You learned nothing about Black history. You learned nothing about starting a business. You learned nothing about managing money, but yet you know everything there is to know about the Dallas Cowboys offensive line, even though Jerry Jones ain't never gonna cut your ass a check. You know everything about whether LeBron James is gonna go play for the Lakers or stay with the Cavaliers. You could tell me all about your Rolodex full of women that you've been messing with because you spend a lot of time chasing girls, and that's cool. There ain't no wrong with that. I'm not judging that. But I'm just sitting here trying to say, what if that black man has spent that 40,000 hours in school learning how to be economically successful? Like, what if he'd spent that time, even 1/10 of that time, 4,000 hours, learning, how to invest, learning how to run a business, learning how to hustle and make money, right? He would have no problems. I don't black, white, or whatever. I don't care. I'm sorry. Forgive me for saying this. If you're that committed to racism and white supremacy that you can't hear what I'm saying, then I'm not the guy for you. But I don't care what race you are. If your shit is right, like if you are really on top of your stuff, if you're the black man starting LLCs, who's been studying business nonstop, who's making investments nonstop, who's obsessed with the ownership of assets and property, who's managing his money in an intelligent way, you will be successful. You will be successful. I know y'all want to act like, Donald Trump being president means that no black person on earth can possibly succeed, but that's just not true. The sheep will lose, but those who are hustlers, those who know how to go out here and make things happen are going to win. So what I'm telling you is that the game is what it is. White folks are going to continue to be white. They're never going to change in your lifetime, not in a significant enough way to make a difference for you. The only variable you can change is you. The only variable you can shift is you. So I go back to my original premise, my original point that I made on my Instagram page. My Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins. If you guys want to follow, feel free to follow that. I think we overcommit our black boys to sports because we want to be slaves to white people. I think that we overcommit our black boys to sports because we love contributing to white supremacist systems. I think that we overcommit our black boys to sports because we become comfortable serving as the fuel for an economic system that does not benefit us. Because they can't run the NFL and the NBA without black men. They need black men the same way Chevron and Exxon need oil from Saudi Arabia. They need oil from the Middle East, so they'll go declare war on a country like Iraq or Libya to get that fucking oil. They will do whatever it takes to get that oil. So you are oil to them. You are the fuel. You are the fuel for their sports. You are the fuel for their entertainment. You are the fuel for their prison industrial complex. And you are the fuel for their broader economy because you give most of that 1.3 trillion away to white businesses, right? So you're the fuel. So really it's up to you to decide if you want to promote yourself in that system, if you want to have a different role. Because if you don't change the role, they're never going to change their behavior. They're going to keep all the football camps in the hood. They're going to constantly recruit your son for sports. They're going to keep miseducating your boy so that he doesn't think he can do anything other than dribble a basketball and throw a football. So it's ultimately up to the original educators to decide what's going to happen next. And the original educator of the black child is the black mother and the black father. That is where the education begins. That is where the process must be disrupted. That is where the change must occur. That is where Black Lives must matter. And Black Lives Matter is not a statement you're going to hear me run around screaming, because my goal at the end of the day is never to convince white people that Black Lives matter. I don't expect them to ever care that Black Lives matter, because that would be hypocritical, because I honestly, white lives don't really matter to me that much. It doesn't mean I hate them. Doesn't mean I want to see them die. It doesn't mean I want to see them fail. I just don't wake up every morning thinking, my God, how do I keep a white person safe today? Oh my God, how do I make sure Asian people can get jobs? We've got to figure out, we're in the Black Business School, we have to figure out an Asian educational and employment plan, because that poor Asian community is really struggling. We got to make sure that they're in good shape. No, that's not realistic. That's not reality. If Black lives don't matter to you, then Black lives will never matter to anyone, because people look at you and they expect you to love yourself enough to do what's best for you. So get out of that mindset. And I know it's not your fault. We were raised on this disabled mindset. We were given this disability at an early age, this idea that somehow, in a paternalistic fashion, white people are just supposed to care about us, take care of us, be there for us, love us, and provide for us. And that's just not how the world works. So those are my thoughts. I appreciate you guys listening. I went into a couple of different topics, but it was really a stream of consciousness. But I'm hopeful that these words are beneficial to you in terms of how you make your decisions. So thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you. So do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, share, and subscribe before you go. Also, if you're interested in learning how to invest with stock options, Wednesday nights at 8 p.m., we have a stock options masterclass. It's very, very good. If you don't love it, there's a full refund if you're not happy for any reason. But feel free to check it out. It's in the Black Business School. You can go to drboycemasterclass.com. That's drboycemasterclass.com. So thanks, guys. Have a good day. I think I'm going to take me a nap. I'll see you guys later. Be good. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10, 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV.